Welcome to the Women Leaders Association Daily Member Podcast, where we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. I'm your host, Judy Kirkland. And in each Daily Member Podcast, we will pick out a great speaker from one of our meetings that we thought you would enjoy. You can access hundreds of recent speakers, book summaries, great articles, and more at no additional charge through your membership portal. If you would like to get involved in a Women Leaders Association mastermind group or find a networking group near you, or if you just need access to the membership portal, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com to be connected. Now let's tune in for this incredible message.
So I am Judy Kane. My business is Aligned Consciousness, and I'm a mindset change specialist. And what that does is helps people relieve stress by changing their subconscious beliefs. So I work with individuals and I work with coaches to help their clients get rid of those barriers that are keeping them from achieving the success that they're trying to get. And so it's, I haven't always done this. I've been doing this since 2011, started the business in 2014. But before that, I had decades in IT management. So I've seen both the large corporate environment and also the entrepreneur environment. So this is, I really enjoy being able to help people overcome those things that are keeping them from achieving their goals. I'm also the author of a book, Your Four Truths, How Beliefs Impact Your Life. So head trash, we all know what it is. It's stuff that gets in our way that we don't need and is keeping us from being as productive and achieving the goals what we'd like to do. Like I said, I am a mindset change specialist. And so I have seen clients for over 10 years now. And what I have seen is that people have a lot of trouble getting to where they want to be because of those subconscious beliefs that are in their mind. So I'm going to be talking about where these beliefs come from, how you can identify them, and what you can do about them. So these subconscious beliefs, they're actually mostly established by the time you're 7 years old. We come in a blank slate, a little sponge, just going around absorbing all the beliefs that are in the environment that we land in. That's, and it's to our advantage because that way we learn all the operating rules of engagement for our people, which makes it more likely we're going to be able to stay in that group until we grow up. The importance of them are that they control 95% of your behavior and they are your default mode. So while you can do something different if you're focusing on it, if you learn something different, if you're trying to do it differently, you can do that, of course. But when you stop focusing on it and you go just to default mode, you go back to the stuff that's there. So these subconscious beliefs define how you experience your life. Another really interesting thing is that they don't usually get changed by logic or data or willpower. I've worked with phobia clients, and if one, for example, if they have a fear of flying, they might know statistically it's safer to get on the plane than drive to the airport. That doesn't take away the fear, right? They still are like panic stricken when they think about trying to get on a plane. So, just looking at the data is not usually an effective way to change subconscious beliefs that are there. However, they can be changed. And that's the good news. People don't have to accept what they seem to feel like is an unacceptable situation. They can be changed, and there are ways to do that are pretty simple. So how can you identify them? Sometimes you can relate to this. Do you ever feel stuck? Like you just can't make any progress with what's going on? You're maybe overwhelmed, but you just don't know what to do next. Or you're working really hard at some goal that you got and you're not seeing the results that you want. Or maybe you get stressed out on a regular basis thinking about doing certain things or being with certain people. Well, those are all clues that you might have subconscious beliefs that are making you feel that way. I'm going to be talking about some of the clues you can look for in your life that will help you see if maybe subconscious beliefs are working against you. I'm going to focus on two, fear and self-worth. And the self-worth thing ties in very nicely with the first panel discussion, because there was a lot of tie-in there with what I'm going to be saying. We all know fear evokes, certain responses in the body, the fight, flight, freeze type of a reaction. When you go into that fear mode, your body starts flooding with hormones, and your energy goes to areas of your body that will help you do the fight or do the flight, whatever it is you need to be doing, which means that energy is going away from other functions that it would normally be helping with, like making decisions or digesting your food or doing other things that are secondarily important to just surviving the moment. And so the other thing I want to talk about is the self-worth. And it's not just your own, what you think of yourself, of how valuable you are, but also it's important to feel like other people value you. So those are two basic human needs: to be safe and to be valued, self-value and valued by others. If you're not meeting a basic human need, you're going to have stress. And if this is an ongoing situation, you're going to have chronic stress. Those hormones don't treat your body kindly when they're there all the time. They cause inflammation, which can cause physical symptoms of stress, which can cause some diseases. So you really don't want to be experiencing this on an ongoing basis. Now, what we're going to be looking for when you're looking at your, what your experiences are the patterns. Some of the things I'm going to bring up as an example are, they happen to people incidentally. We're looking for the patterns of where these things happen on a regular basis. You're looking for the things that stress you out. The stress isn't caused by the incident. It's caused by your belief about the incident, or about whether you think you'll be able to handle it or what it means to you. Or where are things that seem to be really hard for you? If they're just so challenging that you avoid them, or that you just really have to gear up for them, there are probably some subconscious beliefs there that are making it that hard for you. And the last thing that you can do when you're looking at these is look at the stories you tell yourself. What are the things you accept as true about yourself? A lot of those probably aren't true. They're stories we've been telling ourselves for a while, but they're not always based in fact. They're based in beliefs that you have about, subconscious beliefs that you've got about yourself. So I'm going to talk about 4 categories of fear that I see in my clients the most. And the first one is fear of success. And people sometimes question that. They are trying to get ahead. They're trying to be, achieving their goals and doing the things to get to the next level. And they don't really understand that their subconscious can be protecting them from that success, because something about that seems unsafe. So one of the things could be that it could be too expensive to be successful. And I don't mean that necessarily in monetary terms. It could be cost too much emotionally or time-wise. I worked with a woman once who was a coach who was a good coach. She was doing all the right stuff. She wanted to build her business. It was stopped at a certain level. And we found out that she had a subconscious belief that in order to be more successful, she would have to be working a lot harder, putting in a lot more hours. And she had additional priorities in her life. She had a family. She did a good job of having self-time and self-care. And so her subconscious was protecting her from that success, which would rob her of those other priorities. So we did some changes to her beliefs. She changed those to be that you don't have to work 24/7 to be successful. And she was an entrepreneur. She could decide her schedule. She could decide how much time she wanted to put into it. Once she changed those beliefs, the business started picking up, and she could see a real difference there. Another problem sometimes with success is we tend to measure success with money terms in a lot of cases, particularly in business. And we get a lot of conflicting messages when we're growing up about money. It might be the root of all evil. It might be that you learned that it's not okay to have more money than you need. It might be that you have to work really, really, really hard to get, lots of money. Or it could be that, your family looked at people who had a lot of money as having unwanted qualities, and you don't want to be like those people. So there's a lot of stuff that goes in there. Your subconscious beliefs can be keeping you from that unwanted consequence of having too much money, and that can keep you from the success. And a third category in fear of success comes in with self-sabotage. If you notice that you have a pattern of always getting in your own way, could be procrastination, it could be a lot of things. But if there's a pattern of always getting that wrong thing, doing that wrong, right, when you need to be doing it correctly, it's probably some beliefs there that are keeping you from success because it's not something that your subconscious believes would be good for you. Fear of failure is another big one. We aren't born with a fear of failure. If we were, none of us would be walking. If any of you have watched a child learn how to walk, they get up, they fall down. They get up and they fall down, right? It's like a constant over and over thing until they are successful. Some families, that's their attitude, right? It's let's be curious. Let's try this stuff. Let's learn about it. Let's keep practicing. Every attempt is celebrated, but not every family is like that. In some families, failure is not a good thing. So children learn that you don't do things that are risky because you might fail. Now, this can impact your major choices in life. It can impact the choices within those choices, right? Whether do you go for that promotion? Do you try to make that team? All the things. If you grow up with the belief it's not okay to fail, it's going to be really hard to put yourself out there and take that chance to fail. It's more than just willpower. There's real fear in there that keeps some people from moving ahead like that. Another category is scarcity. And of course, everybody's heard of the money, that in terms of a money mindset with scarcity, of there's not enough money. And when people are thinking about that, if they really have a scarcity mindset about money, no amount is ever going to make them feel better. They are always going to be afraid that they don't have enough of that. If they hit the amount that they were aiming for, the fear isn't going to go away. So then they up the limit, and it just keeps going. But there are other things that you can think there is scarcity of as well: time, clients, other resources that you might need to do your job, which can make it feel very competitive. And not in the best way. There's good competition and there's bad competition. But the kind that stresses you out, where you just feel like you've got to, claw your way through to get to the thing that you need. That mindset, that fear can be debilitating. And it's not based on any fact. I worked with a woman who wanted to do video interviews. This was part of what she was doing for her business, and she wanted to interview people, and she wanted to have a series of them, but she didn't think she knew enough people to keep it going. That was a belief. And if you think something's not there, you're not going to see them. You're not going to be able to find it. So we changed the belief that there were plenty of people out there that would be happy to be interviewed by her. She's been doing this for years now, and she's never run out of people. It's you need to believe they're there to be able to find them and see them. And the last one is that fear of being seen or heard. This can be, and there was so much that was said already in this summit about this, but some people grow up in households where it was physically not safe to be seen or heard, where a child's best plan is to be as invisible and silent as possible. And that's horrible for those children. There are other households where maybe children's voices and opinions weren't valued. Maybe they weren't listened to, or they were told they were silly or didn't know what they were talking about. Or maybe they always felt like they were in the way. But there are other times where, they're loving households, but something has happened to make a child feel like it's dangerous to speak out, or be seen. And if you're a leader, this is a really big deal. You need to be able to stand up. You need to be able to lead the charge. You need to be able to explain why you're going and where you're going. It's very important to be able to be comfortable being seen and being heard. And sometimes, like, you can have that fear, even if it was one thing. You can probably all relate to one embarrassing situation that happened in school or in some group somewhere. For some people, it can be so impactful that it can completely shut them down, where they are never willing to take that chance of saying that answer that might be wrong, or not willing to stand up and try the thing in front of a group because people might laugh at them or, be otherwise cruel. So you don't know where these things come from. They can be different levels of time span and intensity, but all sorts of things can cause that fear to go in with your subconscious, and it'll be there impacting what you do going forward. So self-esteem or self-worth, one of the ways you can tell if you've got subconscious beliefs around that is, if you're a persistent feeling of shame or guilt or doubt, those are kind of clues there. But here's some other areas where you can look for clues. Boundaries and priorities. We all need to establish our boundaries. We need it for our time. We need it for our emotions. We need it for all sorts of things. And we have priorities. We would not be getting work done if we didn't have priorities that we had identified that were valuable to us. So I'm asking, think about, what do you do if you've got your day and your priorities and somebody comes to you with their priority? Does that go to the top? Where do you fit that in with your priorities? Well, if you have a pattern of putting your priorities below the persons who came to you with the other priority, that's probably an indication your subconscious doesn't think you're as important or as valuable as they are. So that's a self-worth subconscious belief that's limiting you. Now, obviously you got to be flexible. Sometimes their priority is more important, but look for the patterns there. Owning your own success. It's very important to be able to know that you do a good job, to recognize where you've got accomplishments, to be able to say what your strengths are, and to be able to receive acknowledgments for your accomplishments. I have seen so many people who they do a good job at something and somebody tells them, great job, and they will always attribute it to luck or the team. And, obviously either of those can come into play, but if you can't accept acknowledgement for what you've contributed to that success, and this is a pattern, then it's probably a subconscious belief in there that is making you feel less than or uncomfortable with the attention of people saying that you did something well. In the same category, compliments. If people pay you a compliment and you say anything other than thank you, you're probably uncomfortable with people, telling you something nice about yourself that your subconscious does not believe. It doesn't think you deserve to have that compliment be paid to you. Or favors. If you over-return favors, this is another clue to look for. If I borrow a cup of flour from somebody today and go back to give it to them tomorrow, and don't just take a cup of flour, but I take a bag of flour and maybe a cake on top of it, that's over-returning. Sometimes it's a nice thing to do, but if that's the pattern, there's an indication there that you have subconscious beliefs that are telling you that you aren't as valuable. You have to return more because you aren't worth what they gave to you. Another clue area to look for with this self-esteem is decision making. If decisions are really hard for you to make, or if you make decisions and then go back and constantly revisit them, then your subconscious probably does not think that you are good enough or careful enough or have the skill enough to gather the right information and come to the right conclusion. That's just a subconscious belief. It has nothing to do with your ability to do these things, but it's very limiting when you have that happen. And the last category in this self-esteem, self-worth is your self-talk. Like when you're talking to yourself, are you compassionate or are you critical? Do you talk to yourself like you would talk to anybody else if you were trying to encourage them? Or is it the exact opposite? Listen to dialogue. See what you're saying to yourself. This is where you can pick up on that imposter syndrome too, right? We all know what that is, and most of us have experienced it. But it's important to pay attention to it and to not think that's normal or necessarily constructive. There's a difference between being constructive and being hypercritical. So note the difference between those. So why does it matter? Well, you're going to waste a lot of time and energy if you are going down these rabbit holes of wondering if you did the right thing, of trying to avoid stuff you don't want to do. If you're making choices based on fear, on what you want to avoid instead of what you really want, that's really sad. We should be identifying what it is that you want and not just doing things just to avoid the consequences of what you fear. And in my opinion, I think, all of us would like to have, I certainly enjoy having a life that's more full of accomplishment, fulfillment, satisfaction. Definitely don't want that stress, and definitely not on a long-term basis. I've talked about the stress. It's really bad for you, for your body, for your mind, for your spirit, to be in a constantly stressed out situation. So what can you do about these? Well, when I see people, they come in and they have something they want to be different. And so they talk about that. And then I ask them, well, what is it you'd rather be experiencing? You'd be surprised how many people don't know what that is. They know what they don't want, but they don't know exactly what they do want. So identifying what you do want is the first step. After you've done that, get into the details of it. Think of examples of how this would look once it's true, and get really deep in the details. Think about how it's going to look. Where are you? Who are you with? What do you look like? What does your body language look like? What's your facial expression look like? What else can you notice about the visual details? How does it sound? Are you hearing other people say things in this future example, or what are you saying to yourself? And then a really important thing to do to identify is, what is the feeling you're going to get from having this be the truth for you? And don't just name it, get into it, feel it, and figure out where that is in your body. How does it feel in your body? And if there are other sensory things around this example that you're bringing up, maybe they're smells, maybe they're tastes, maybe they're textures, anything you can do to bring in the details of this experience, get there. Excuse me. Really live it for a little bit and see how it feels. Sometimes that can change your subconscious to understand, oh, this is what you're going for. Well, let's see if we can realign and help you with that. But once you've decided what you want and figured out exactly how it looks, determine some action steps to support that goal, right? Now that you know where you're going, it's easier to figure out what you need to do to get there. And if you're impatient or unclear, find somebody who can help. There are lots of modalities that can help change subconscious beliefs. There are lots of people who practice all those different modalities. I do this too, but there are lots of choices out there. The thing that's really important is to understand that you don't have to accept that this is just the way it is. You can change the beliefs to support you and help you accomplish your goals. So you've got options there. It's really important to understand that. So if you want to know more, I do have a website, and on there is a page that has resources that you can download. It talks more about this. There are more examples. There are more stories. Anything on the website might be helpful, but go ahead and help yourself to download whatever's there that piques your interest.
Hey, my friend, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, be sure to rate, review, and share your biggest takeaway. And if you're wanting more, you can access hundreds of recent speakers, book summaries, great articles, and more at no additional charge through your membership portal. You can also get involved in a Women Leaders Association mastermind group or networking group near you. Or if you just need to access your membership portal, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com to be connected. Because here at Women Leaders Association, we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. That's all for today, my friends. Bye for now.